very, very serious stuff. And, you know, the fact that we have no criminal law experience is very concerning. And I know that the council has voted, we have voted previously to put people on the Superior Court who don't have criminal law experience, but what they have to offset that is extensive trial experience, where they've tried several cases, very complex med malpractice cases, and those types of cases. So I'm gonna just tell you that right now.
Counselor, I don't want to repeat myself, but I think it's been crystal clear that I don't have any criminal trial experience, but I have 5 years worth of criminal experience in the way that I just described, overseeing the criminal bureau and other divisions of our office.
Understood. But being exposed to something and actually trying cases are far different things. I believe anyway. You have been in a supervisory capacity for a couple of years now. Why haven't you tried criminal cases? You probably could select any case you want to try. Why haven't you done that to prepare?
That actually hasn't been a reasonable option for me, and I have thought about it for the last 5 years. And the reason is I have a lot of responsibilities in my current position and the one that I had before it, and it's conceivable in my mind that I could reach a point where I was so comfortable as Deputy Attorney General or First Assistant that I could take out the many hours that it takes to correctly prepare for a trial and conduct one. I just didn't reach that time in the few years that I was Deputy Attorney General, and then a couple of years that I've been First Assistant.
Some attorneys get a case and they, assistant district attorneys, they get a case the night before and they've got to try the case. I mean, lawyers don't have hours and hours, at least in private practice, hours and hours and hours to prepare. I mean, in some cases you do, but a lot of times, you've just got to prepare and try a case. And seeing that in that unique opportunity that you had, that would have been a good idea, particularly with you applying for Superior Court to try some criminal cases. And not.
Most of my public service in the last 5 years has not been motivated by making my Superior Court application as strong as it could. It's been motivated by serving the Attorney General's office. So I did consider it. I had a lot of responsibilities that I feel very, strongly about performing well. That's especially been true when I was First Assistant, because I was in that job for 6 months during the Coakley administration, and it was new to me and challenging. And then I've been in it for a year and a half or more with the Healy administration, and it's the beginning of administration. It is an exceedingly busy time, and I was driven by doing my job for her and for the office and the Commonwealth, not by making sure I got a trial under my belt. And that just
It's not just about your application, it's about real trial experience. It's about being in the courtroom, trying a case. I mean,
I've always insisted, even when I've been First Assistant, to make sure I had an active caseload. But an active caseload means 1 or 2 cases. If those cases went to trial, usually after 2 or 3 years, I would handle them. But most of them eventually resolved. So what I started doing when I was Deputy Attorney General to make sure I stayed in the courtroom was taking care of appeals. And I've done a few appeals in the last few years to make sure I was in the courtroom, admittedly not the Superior Court. So then when I take the Volkswagen investigation, which has resulted in litigation, but right now that's on hold, I do so to make sure that I'm still involved in casework and eventually get in court. But I can't, I could if I wanted to take other people's cases, but I have chose not to generate court appearances for my own benefit. I think it's really important as a manager to not cherry pick cases, to not take cases when they get exciting and go to appeal or to trial, but to give the AAGs that handle the case from A to Z the real responsibility and autonomy to handle themselves. So there's a whole bunch of reasons that even though it's conceivable I could do that, in my view, it wasn't the right thing for the office.
I think it has to, that goes directly to the issue of qualifications for the position you're here for. Not about, supervising or, choosing to do, a certain case or not a certain case. It's about being qualified for the position. Trial experience makes somebody qualified, in my opinion, or makes them unqualified. So that's the issue. I noticed in here that you said during your testimony that you've had 7 trials.
Right.
2 on your own. Is that right? I'm not trying to trip you up on your answer. I'm just.
No, I think I said that there's 2 that were my responsibility from beginning to end. There's another 4 where I would, or 3 probably, where I was truly co-counsel. We did it together. And then there's a couple where I was the junior person that was in the courtroom, but not a special judge.
How many jury instructions have you prepared over the course of your career?
Well, when I was clerk, probably prepared a dozen or 2 dozen. And then when I was practicing, I would say at least 5, probably 10.
Over your career, over the course of your career? Okay.
I think so. The reason so there were many times I prepared jury instructions in private practice where I wasn't the trial counsel, so probably higher than that. I worked for an attorney at Appy King who tried Ed Mal cases. He did them by himself, but he had associate attorneys back in the office doing things like jury charges. So as I think about it, I probably did 4 or 5 for him. And then in the intellectual property litigation, there were probably another few trials that went that I wasn't on the trial, but was back in the office working on jury instructions. So there were probably higher than 10, just not exactly sure where it lands.
Tell me about the investigation into Exxon.
Sure, that is, I think that was started in spring by the issuance of a civil investigating command by our office.
What was the mission, or what was the point of that? What was the driving motivator?
So there were press reports in 2015 concerning a bunch of documents that explained that in the 70s and 80s, ExxonMobil had basically in-house a pretty serious scientific enterprise looking into global warming and its ultimate effects, including what the effects would be on the assets of ExxonMobil, oil and gas. At some point in the 80s, that was not only ended, but what the investigation gets into is what ExxonMobil told its investors and consumers about its knowledge of global warming, which was not consistent with what it did from scientific research. The reason this matters in the 93A world is material misrepresentations or omissions of material information to investors in the securities context. So we issued a 93A Section 6 CID to ExxonMobil that basically concerned what it learned in the 70s and 80s and what its representations to the market and to consumers have been since then.
And that was, and that investigation is now stalled, correct?
If by stalled you mean ExxonMobil has challenged our authority to issue the CID, yes.
And your office requested 40 years of documents, correct?
Well, as I explained, as to what they knew, that goes back to research that was done in the 70s.
And
So,
who's,
yes, that sounds correct.
and who's that, whose idea was it to launch this investigation? It's been criticized as a political investigation by some attorney generals in the United States, from most states.
So, the question was whose idea was
Yeah,
it?
whose idea was it to go after Exxon for global warming?
This proposal came out of our Energy and Environment Bureau, which covers environmental
much, what did it cost taxpayers to launch that investigation? I had a really hard time reading about it, to see what the benefit to the public was, but then, you know, the political overtone and, Exxon was being accused of hiding, proof of documents because they had global warming. What's the benefit to the taxpayers here?
The only benefit to the taxpayers will be if there's a claim. Right now, the office hasn't made any determination whether there's a claim. If there's a claim, it would be a Chapter 93A claim based on investments in Exxon. The reason we can do this is because almost always, and certainly it's the case here, the Commonwealth has invested in securities. In the past, we've had a good track record because of the Commonwealth's investments, plus securities investors generally, in using 93A to get at securities law violations. But here, there's no determination of it. So the recovery would only be after the claim, and it would involve investment losses that can be tied to the failure to disclose material information, followed by a disclosure that causes the stock price to drop. That's the securities angle, and that's why the Securities and Exchange Commission is essentially investigating the same theory, the U.S. business.
Why did they target one industry? Why did they target ExxonMobil?
There's only one reason, and that's the press reports of the documents that came out explaining this narrative and failure to disclose this information that came out in the LA Times in 2015. So that was the starting point, and that led to the investigation. So it's not that ExxonMobil was picked, it's that there was this exposure of internal documents from investigative journalism.
One of the criticisms is that when there was a press conference, of course, held to talk about this. And there were, during the press conference, there were owners, investors of clean energy companies. So it would seem that the Exxon was targeted for this investigation, but the alternative energy companies were part of this press conference. And it seems like it was biased there. I don't know why there would be any energy companies at a press conference announcing they believe that some type of fraud was committed. That was unusual.
Yeah, I thought the press conference involved several attorneys general. I'm not familiar with anyone else speaking, but I don't know.
You weren't there.
I wasn't.
Do you recall seeing a letter signed by several attorney generals from the United States? 12 attorney generals, different states, criticizing the investigation because they felt that if the argument is that Exxon minimized the impact of their product on global warming, that they didn't disclose it. If the minimization is fraud, the exaggeration of global warming or correspondence to what Exxon does or doesn't do with respect to their product is equally a fraud. So minimization is a fraud. They knew something they didn't say, and they knew it was the impact was worse than what they led investors to believe. The exaggeration of global warming can also be a fraud.
There's a question whether I saw the letter.
Yes.
I've seen the letter.
Are you aware of that criticism? And as far as the letter is concerned, that's what they point out in this letter signed by the
Sure,
attorney
I
generals.
think that,
You
I
speak
think
to
the
that?
letter reflects the polarization that we see in the country now exists in the AG community as well. Every time the EPA issues a new rule, whether it's the tailoring rule or the power plant rule, any environmental regulation,
EPA is chronically front of the Supreme
The
Court for
EPA, right,
passing.
exactly. So every rule will be challenged by industry. And there's a group of 15 to 20 states that will always challenge the rule. And then there's a group of 15 to 20 states, of which Massachusetts is a part, that will almost always support the rule. So that letter you're referring to reflects to this polarization in politics that now exists in the age of community. Everything we Massachusetts are involved in pro-environmental protection way will get the response from Luther Strange and other AGs and everything. Well, and then often the things that they do to fight regulation will be on the side of the EPA. That's the way.
Why is
That's
that?
the way
Why
the
is
world.
why is that? If everybody's supposed to, I mean, as attorneys, you're supposed to look at each case on the merits. You can't tell me the EPA is always right, and I'm not saying industry is always right, but, I mean, why wouldn't there be a more objective approach instead of just lining up with the feds, the EPA, you know, which you suggested?
But to be clear, I think we in Massachusetts are on the right side of this. But the answer to your question is that there is that polarization because of politics, and it is especially acute in the environmental protection world. I think that's really unfortunate because neither side seems to really be able to talk to each other and see where the right policy might be. It's just the way it is. And it wasn't this way when I began in the Attorney General's office. There was this community of AGs nationwide that often had a really common mission, and it was pleasantly bipartisan, and it's just not the way things are anymore. I think it's a shame.
When did that happen? When did that occur?
Say over the last decade, I can't really put a finger on when.
Have you done anything to depoliticize that? To end that polarization? It does seem, you know, as professionals, thinking human beings, it seems pretty foolhardy that either side would just line up like a robot, either with the EPA or against the EPA. Take smart people with backbone, if you will, to say, knock it off, this is, shouldn't be
Yeah.
political all the time.
I think that's a real fair point. For my part, so listen, it's easier for staff to work with staff, and we do. There's lots of issues of common interest, sometimes involving the federal government, where states of all stripes work together, and that's good. And I shouldn't paint such a broad brush. There are some of those areas that the environmental protection field, especially that letter just reflects that in that area, the parties are indeed lining up on the two sides. Not just this investigation, but virtually every environmental protection issue that's out there. Any case that gets to the Supreme Court on EPA regulation or more active in the DC Circuit, you're gonna see those 15 to 20 states on one side, 15 to 20 on the other. You know, I'm sorry to believe this, it really has been a frustration of mine, because there is so much common ground for law enforcement, you know, around the country to work on. And we often do. It's just that letter is not the only one like it. It happens all the time.
I'm sure, these are all Republicans who signed this.
I didn't even know, but I.
They are, I figured that they were, and that's why they said.
And as you could guess, the ones that I'm talking about that are supporting the EPA, they may not be all Democrat, but I suspect they're all.
That's what's wrong with the country. Prior to launching this investigation, you know, your office or the department or division that handle this, did they consult with any experts or scientists about global warming? Did you bring any folks in? Because I think everybody would agree that there are certainly different theories out there about global warming or the impact that mankind has on it. I know we think we're pretty important on the planet, but, you know, there are certainly experts out there on both sides of that issue. You know, experts would consult.
So our environment and energy bureau has a lot of expertise. I don't know precisely what they did
That wasn't something
prior
that
to
you
this,
oversaw.
but first saw it, approved the CID. I don't know and heard the basis for the CID. I don't know the extent to which they consulted outside experts. As I said, there's a lot of internal expertise in our office when it comes to the status of global warming science.
I mean, as far as, obviously your office has, the expression missions, agendas, open forums.
Priorities, but I understand.
Priorities, that's another word. Don't you think consulting an expert from outside of the office or experts on the issue was probably a good idea? Because once you launch an investigation, it's an incredible amount of taxpayer money, resources, you've got people on it, staff. Isn't that the standard operating procedure that experts and consultants before people just go off and do this stuff? I don't mean necessarily internal, because you're all sitting in an echo chamber, right? You're all part of the same mission, you're gonna be saying the same thing. But somebody outside,
So I strenuously disagree with the echo chamber reference. It's not
I mean, you're on the same team, I mean, you're not, I would hope you are.
Being on the same team does not mean that we don't listen to alternative views and figure out what the best approach is. So I just have to object to the echo chamber proposal. So on the question of wouldn't it have been smart to consult outside experts, I just don't know the extent to which outsiders were consulted here, so I don't know the answer.
But you approved it. You approved it.
Sure.
So what is your analysis before you approve investigation or case to go forward?
Sure, the standard for investigation of the public has reason to believe unfair or deceptive acts or practices occurred in trade or commerce. So it's the reason to believe that's important there. So as I explained earlier, the facts involved here were those that were exposed in that investigative journalism in 2015 in the LA Times, and then the work in our office that was that we did and I learned about was the connection of those facts to unfair deceptive trade practices through securities violations, namely failure to disclose material information. So it's the legal theory that turned the exposed facts of the 70s and 80s into a basis for investigation.
And it was based on an LA Times article.
It was an extensive series, but for you to read it, there's links to those internal documents. So it's those internal documents that made the case.
And did you review those documents?
Some of it, because I reviewed the LA Times article, and you can click to see.
Do you believe everything you read in the paper?
No, I don't think so. That's why we conduct an investigation rather than a lawsuit.
And what is the status of that now?
So we issued a CID in the springtime, and ExxonMobil filed action in federal court in Fort Worth challenging the CID, and then the next day filed an action in Massachusetts Superior Court also challenging the CID. So both of those proceedings are underway. The question is whether the Attorney General was appropriately exercising their investigative authority under the Fair Deceptive Trade Practices Act.
Haven't some of the states walked back? Virgin Island, I believe the Attorney General from Virgin Island basically let the investigation go. Some of the states have backed out.
I think there's only a few states.
New York.
Virgin Islands back away, New York, and us. I don't think there's any other states.
Seems like a heavy use of resources for in the state. We certainly have a lot of problems in Massachusetts. What about the Catano case? Are you familiar with that case, an SGC case?
Yeah,
Came
that's,
down.
yes.
Did your office file the amicus brief with regard to
concisely said the SJC got it wrong, that stun guns are within the Second Amendment, and that its analysis failed to follow the teachings of Heller. So I don't recall a harmful. Yes, yes, I can. So if I could explain, if we filed an amicus brief, it's typically in defense of the existing law. And the existing law outlawed stun guns. Okay, so it's coming back. I still can't remember if we filed an amicus brief. The existing law in Massachusetts outlawed stun guns. And when that was challenged, mere possession, right? When that was challenged, the law was defended as both reasonable legislation and not subject to the Second Amendment, because at the time of the Second Amendment, stun guns were firearms. SJC agreed and said stun guns aren't subject to a Second Amendment challenge. And it's that holding that the Supreme Court emphatically said was wrong.
So the Supreme Court emphatically said that your office position was wrong as well.
And it's just, I
I
will confirm, I just
because
don't
it's-
know if we followed it.
I gotta tell you, that decision in town, 8-0, the US Supreme Court kicked it back in mass. I know it wasn't the opinion of the court, Justice Alito's decision that he wrote with regard to the Massachusetts decision was just absolutely scathing. And to read it, one is left with the impression that the Massachusetts Supreme Court was like a first-year law student, read the first case that they were supposed to brief in that first year, just completely missed all the issues. I mean, it was embarrassing to read Alito's decision with respect to our US Supreme Court, where they're relying on, weapons that were around at the time of the founding, and to find that possession of a stun gun, which is non-lethal, wasn't protected by the Second Amendment. Deeply disturbed by the Massachusetts Supreme Court reasoning and rationale in that case. So that's why I'm wondering if your office filed a brief. I'd very much like to be aware of that and read that. I just think that position was flat wrong. Not that you
Well, I agree that
take
this,
positions, I know your office has to take certain positions with regard to the law, I get that, so it's not a criticism necessarily.
as you know, we defend the law as it exists, as long as it can be defended, so that's not an absolute. You're absolutely correct that that decision from the Supreme Court is scathing. And so plainly, the SGC's analysis was wrong. But but at least in the abstract, they were wrong on the question of whether a stun gun is a firearm. And the scathing nature of the decision is that you can't rely on this notion that it didn't exist
Right,
back
because
in
Helen
old
McDonald
days.
clearly said that,
And that's what they told the SGC. But it wasn't, for instance, I guess I'm just thinking, in the abstract, the question of whether a stun gun qualifies as a firearm, even though the SGC got addressed that in the Supreme Court, is different than the more typical application of the Second Amendment that I would suggest would be more troubling if you got a Supreme Court ruling like that, where it was about, for instance, a handgun. So I'm just saying it is a new technology, and while the Supreme Court said they were wrong, it wasn't a traditional firearm. But I understand.
And you started out your testimony, your statement last week. Saying that you believe in the Second Amendment. Okay. strongly support the Second Amendment. With your, your testimony. Can you tell me what you've done? Can you point to a case of brief, an argument, a policy position, anything that would support your statement that you strongly support the Second Amendment, other than your testimony?
Two things. The first thing we've already talked about is as we determine how to implement the decision to enforce the copies of duplicates provision of the assault weapons ban, determined to do it prospectively, not go back in time. One of the major underpinnings to that decision was that if people bought and possessed those guns, believing they were lawful, that absolutely you have to be very careful. To suggest it's unlawful, is within the context of the second. So we had that in mind. But something we haven't discussed yet has to do with licensing. And the instance that comes to my mind, I think, was about a year and a half ago. There was a licensing appeal where the applicant, two applicants, both had misdemeanor marijuana convictions of 20 and 30 years old. And under the statute, the police chief has no discretion. There's a lot of discretion with respect to suitability, but there's 7 factors that if they exist, there is no discretion. So these police chiefs lawfully, at least under the statute, denied permits because of 20 or 30-year-old misdemeanor convictions for possession of marijuana. And when that case was filed, rather than fight it, we, in the Government Bureau, determined that we would stipulate that the application of the licensing statute to those 2 people violated the Second Amendment. It was unreasonable, would withstand the constitutional scrutiny.
When was this?
I think it was in 2014 or 2015.
Was there a name of the case?
I think it's called Wesson. Wesson is the police chief's name. So it was filed in federal court, said it was unconstitutional to deny licenses in those circumstances, violation of the Second Amendment. And instead of fighting, we agreed. We explained that marijuana possession now is a citable offense, not a crime. And therefore, it is
It's not even that anymore.
unreasonable as of December
I don't know
14th.
if it's
right?
certified yet, but.
But this is, so for that case, we determined plaintiffs were correct. The Second Amendment didn't permit license denial based on those long ago problems, and it would withstand constitutional scrutiny. So, we could have fought that case and waited for a court, but instead we agreed with plaintiffs to a stipulation that said in these circumstances, and if we're happening again, we take the same position. Ancient marijuana possession, even though the statute says there's no discretion, you have to deny a permit. It's not constitutional. So that reflects application. There may be others. I oversaw that one with the administrative law chief. I recall it. I think it's Weston, but
Is that under prior administration?
it's either at the end of the Coakley administration or the beginning of the administration.
Yeah, one of the point, I mean, the retroactive application, I'm not even sure that would be constitutional. We've talked about that, for a long time, whether that declaration that she came out and said retroactive. I'm not sure that
Well,
would be
the
constitutional anyway.
Listen, I can't say what a court would do in those circumstances, but
unconstitutional as well. Constitutional. You were asked about divorces, Roger Bill asked you about what cases you filed in Superior Court. And you, I think you weren't sure if you thought divorces could be filed.
Well, there were several parts of that question that I did not answer. I think I said no to divorces. I am
I'm
aware
not
of that.
gonna belabor the point, but so you weren't sure at the time, basically, because he asked you about some caps on, damages, and what jurisdiction, it's very good as jurisdictions, I don't forget to say that you weren't sure at the time.
At the time, and I
Yes.
do know now.
Yeah,
And
is
was I
that fair?
embarrassed to not answer those questions? Absolutely.
I'm not
But
trying to-
now
yeah.
it's disputes over $25,000. It's reviews of administrative decisions. It's 209A restraining orders on the civil side. And on the criminal side, it's original jurisdiction over all crimes and then exclusive jurisdiction over anything with a sentence continues to 5 years. So, wish I had that basic information.
And I'm not, that's
But
not my, I just wrote it down because I didn't know if you knew something I didn't know, but I just question.
well, I'm
Because I think Superior Court, it made me, when I left here, look it up, and actually ask a family court judge, and I think you're right. Because I wrote it down, I put a question mark, like, you file a divorce in Superior Court, and I think Superior Court may have concurrent jurisdiction over divorce, believe it or not. I've been practicing family law for 20 years, so I'm like, I wonder if you knew that, you just meant to miss it.
I'm embarrassed all over.
No, I wouldn't, no, I mean, I left here saying, is it, yeah, jurisdiction. Yeah. Right. I've never filed a divorce in Superior Court, but,
That
they can
case-
end up there, they can end up in Superior Court, I know that, where if you have a divorce, and it survives as an independent contract, and somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to do. You basically file a contract action in Superior Court, some cases you have to, depending on the judgment.
That sounds right to me. Well, I have a note here, and it's Weston v. Salisbury, is that case that I was just describing about the licensing, where we stipulated the unconstitutionality of the application of licensing statute. And it dates in April 2014, so that was last year. I will say, if the same issue arose today, we take the same position. I'm quite sure.
And you were asked by Council Kennedy again,